What's going on, people? Got another episode of Tips and Tricks for you. My name is RX. I got Mr. ES with me in the building. For this episode, we're going to be covering the Pocket Operators by Teenage Engineering. Previous episodes, we've covered a lot of virtual software. We figured we'd dive into some hardware for this one. So, mainly, though, I do want to cover a few things first. Here on this first track, we have our video input. So, for the purposes of this tutorial, we ask that you kind of ignore this one. Just to clarify, though, we have just a few plugins running to get our webcam input here. Very cool stuff made by Visible. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, definitely highly suggest you check these guys out. Anyways, we're going to jump right in here. First thing I want to show you guys is how to replace the batteries with some power supplies. So you don't have to keep going out there and buying more and more batteries. It gets expensive after a while. So I'm going to pass the mic over here to Mr. ES, and he's going to show you exactly how to do this.
Cool. So the Pocket Operators are battery powered. The life is not very long, so I was very curious to add the power supplies to them. Never want to have the Pocket Operators die on a set on you. So Teenage Engineering actually made it very easy. Here on the top left, they have a positive and negative terminal already labeled for you. It was as easy as adapting one of those one-spot guitar pedal kits, soldering it at the terminals, and the last step is adding a 3-volt power supply. I recommend getting those universals that have the voltage selection and the multiple tips, just so you can make sure it will fit and you get the right voltage. And once you do that, you will never need batteries again.
Alright, so pretty cool stuff there. Never have to waste money on those damn batteries again. So for the next step, we're going to show you how to sync the Pocket Operators to Ableton. Now, there's different ways of doing this, but we're going to be using a Silent Way bundle by Expert Sleepers to do it. So, a few things that you do need in order to get this to work. We have a Motu 828 interface, which is DC coupled, and it allows you to send CV out in order to sync the Pocket Operator. If you don't have a DC coupled interface, you can buy a CV module by Expert Sleepers. I believe it's called the ES1. And it'll allow you to put it together with your interface currently and allow you to pass the CV through there. So if you don't have the Motu or anything that's DC coupled, definitely check out the Expert Sleepers ES1. Now, a few things to mention here with the setup of this is that we do need to include a external instrument in order to get the sound into it. And you might ask, why not just use an audio track? And the reason being is because here we're going to be latency compensated. So, and we're also going to have a few more routing options for the CV. And then we also will need the Expert Sleepers sync button, sync plugin here. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Mr. ES here, and he'll show you how to do that.
Alright, so before we have any fun here, we're going to have to make a few routing adjustments. Here in our external instrument, we're going to have to set up a MIDI port. Now, the Pocket Operators do not use MIDI, so we can just set this to any MIDI port that's not in use. Now, for our audio from, we're just going to select which audio input we have connected it to. In our case, it's going to be input channel 3. And here, for our last thing, we just need to set the output of the Silent Way sync plugin. Here we need to set it to our next available output, which in our case is output 3, as 1 and 2 are the master speakers. So if we were to go here in our Pocket Operator, put it in the appropriate sync mode, in this case is sync mode 4, and press play in Ableton, everything should be good to go. Of course, one thing I had noticed before too is that the PPQN needs to be adjusted to 2 for it to properly clock to Ableton. So here, if we speed up the tempo or slow it down, the pocket operator responds. And this is where all the fun begins.
All right, so as you can see now, we have all 3 pocket operators connected, and we have to sync them. But first, of course, you do have to set up your power supplies. So make sure to solder your adapter there to the positive and negative terminals on all of those there. And then with the same cables included in the one-spot guitar pedal kit, you can actually daisy chain the power supplies to one unit essentially. That way you can just use one power supply, although you do have to make sure that it's pushing out at least 800 milliamps of current. That way all of them can ensure to receive enough power. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the next step here in syncing them. Basically, we're just going to repeat the last step here. I'm going to just basically duplicate these. So we have 2 more pocket operators, so I'll make 2 more external instruments and 2 more audio tracks, which are going to be preloaded with all the stuff we need already. I'm also going to kind of reorganize these here in pairs to keep it a little tidier. So as we did on the last external instrument, as you can see, it already kind of copied the settings, but we just want to change our inputs. So I have the PO14 on input number 4 on my interface, and I have the 16 on input number 5 here. Also, we're going to want to set up our audio outputs for the sync plugin. Here, because we also have different outputs hooked up for all these different pocket operators, we're going to want to set the outputs here up for the other pocket operators to receive their CV signal. And as you can see, all these settings got duplicated from the original clock track, and we're pretty much ready to go. So let's go ahead and start up a jam session here.